I actually found this, and I just found it to be a very powerful message. I don't know who wrote it, but I just wanted to share it. It's called Listen. When I ask you to listen to me and you start giving me advice, you have not done what I asked. When I ask that you listen to me and you begin to tell me why I shouldn't feel that way, you are trampling on my feelings. When I ask you to listen to me and you feel you have to do something to solve my problems, you have failed me, strange as that may seem. Listen. All that I ask is that you listen, not talk or do, just hear me. When you do something for me that I need to do for myself, you contribute to my fear and feelings of inadequacy. But when you accept as a simple fact that I do feel what I feel, no matter how irrational, then I can quit trying to convince you and go about the business of understanding what's behind my feelings. So please listen and just hear me. And if you want to talk, wait a minute for your turn and I'll listen to you.
Yeah, what did that just do? It kind of built a bridge among us all, from one point to the next, from one heart to the next, from one soul to the next. And if you think about a bridge, I know we tend to think around here in New York, New Jersey, all we see is traffic, right? Because we think about the George Washington Bridge or the Briscoe Bridge going down to the Jersey Shore, and there's always traffic on it. But there are clear bridges also. And one of the things that really just came to mind was that we connect to the spirit world with a bridge, whether that be our breath, whether that be our intention, whether that be our thought about as a medium. And the medium is the bridge between the person looking for that communication and the person in the spirit side of life giving that communication. But the other thing that I feel is always a bridge to the spirit world are our memories, of those people that have made that transition into what we say is the spiritual energy, the spirit world, the spiritual realm, whatever word you want to put on that. And our memories are things that sometimes we sit down and really think about, like, oh, let me try to remember that. Or other times, don't they sometimes just flood in without our even thinking about that person or that memory or that time? And I always feel when those memories flood in, I always feel if there's a reason. I always feel there's somebody trying to get my attention, somebody trying to make that bridge of communication and remembrance and thought of, I'm not that far away. I'm just right here. And that happened to me just a couple of days ago. And it started because I had read on some news alert that popped up on my phone about the woman who was used as the model for Walt Disney's Tinkerbell. I believe her name's Margaret Kelly. And she is 97, 98 years old, and she passed this past week. She transitioned to the spirit world. And she and all over, the internet and things, the news, they were showing pictures of her in her Tinkerbell kind of costume, doing the movements that then the Walt Disney group would take and put into the animation of Tinkerbell, and Tinkerbell in Peter Pan, or Tinkerbell for the Walt Disney Sunday Hour. I don't know how many of you remember that, but I do. I know we're giving our age away a little bit, but every Sunday night, Tinkerbell would welcome you to the Walt Disney Hour. And you still find her in the Walt Disney pictures, the movies, whenever you go and see the animated movies, she's always there opening the scene for everybody. And the reason why it hit me so hard in a way of like, oh my goodness, this is the woman who really started our understanding about this little fairy thing that was called Tinkerbell, 60 some years ago, 65 years ago, 70 years ago, whatever it was. And I remember it it came to me in such a way because it's a connection also to my mom, who is in the spirit side. And I'll tell you this story. Don't think less of me when I tell you this story, because I was 4 or 5 when this happened. And when we're 4 or 5, as most children, a lot of times we get to believe in things that we don't as adults. We get to look at the world with a little bit of wonder, a little bit of magic, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of, oh, could this be? So 4 or 5 years, I was seeing Tinkerbell, on Walt Disney and all of that kind of stuff. And where the kitchen I grew up in, my mom and dad's house, our home at that time, we had a kind of an octagon table that was really like cool in the 60s, and kind of bucket chairs with wheels on them. So we would always wheel the chairs and like push ourselves off of the chair and go flying down the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. But where we sat was always right next to this window. And one day I was sitting there with breakfast, and my mom would always sit, this is before I started school, would always sit with me while I had breakfast, and we would do whatever we do. I don't remember all the things we probably talked about, or we just sat there or whatever, but my mom always sat there with me. And all of a sudden in our kitchen, I saw a light on the wall. And this light started to move. Now, this was way before I knew anything about the spirit world. This was not the spirit world. Let me just preface it that way. But I saw this light on our kitchen wall. And I said to my mom, Tinkerbell is here. Because again, that's how she was shown, as just a flashing light for a lot of time. And I said, Tinkerbell is here. And my mom, being my mom, went right along with it. And the next day, guess what? Tinkerbell showed up again. But that time, my mom said, why don't you ask Tinkerbell a question that she can say to you yes or no to? Great, right? I got Tinkerbell here. So I don't know why, I do not remember the question I asked, but the light went up and down. And my mom told me that meant yes. And I was like, I can talk to Tinkerbell and ask another question. And this time it went side to side, and that meant no. So I'm like, oh, remember the magic 8 balls when you would turn it over and say, it was kind of like that thing, yes, no, that kind of. And so this went on for weeks. It went on for a long time. Some days Tinkerbell would show up. Other days Tinkerbell did not show up. But I always sat in the anticipation and the wonderment of this experience. Tough to say. I was probably about 10. So Tinkerbell went away at one point in time, and that was it. I started school, and you go to school, and other things get into your thoughts as a kid and your mind, and you start to look at the world a little bit differently as you get a little bit older. And I think it was I was 10 years old when I said something to my mother at 10 about, do you remember Tinkerbell? And my mom just said, yes, do you remember Tinkerbell? And I said, yeah, it was such a great thing that she could come to me. Now I'm 10, right? But the world was different then also. And my mom said, Sharon, let me just tell you something. That was me. And I'm like, what? What? So my mom at the time had this house robe that had those buttons that had a little bit of a, I don't know, it wasn't a crystal by any means, but it had a shiny piece on these buttons, right? And the way that the sun came in that window and hit the button, it created this reflection on the window. So as I was asking Tinkerbell my questions, my mom was just moving the button up and down or side to side. So, I was like 5 years in total bliss about this. I come to be 10 years old, and mom's like, yeah, you got it. Like, you can't be going to school telling your friends like you had a conversation with Tinkerbell, because they'll like be calling me. So we're done. We're done with Tinkerbell. But I will also say, at the time, I thought I had the same turtle for about 10 years. Never realized that my mom kept replacing it. So I had trust issues from a very, very early time. But with that thought about having that experience, and I do remember, I don't remember the questions, as I said, but I do remember that feeling of awe, that feeling of anything is possible, and that feeling of no matter what the magic is, that we can be a part of it. And so as I continue to grow and learn and mature, the thought of Tinkerbell always stayed with me because of the innocence and because of that childlike quality that most of us lose as we get a little bit older, of what could be, what could be. Because as we get older, don't we stop saying what could be and start saying what is, and never look beyond that what is thought of what could be. So the thought about when the Margaret Kelly passed this week, all of that kind of stuff came flooding back to me. And I kind of looked to the side and I'm like, Mom, remember, just remember what a great experience for me that was. And I've thought about it from time to time in the last couple of days. And I think there's some more lessons that we can learn from Tinkerbell in the fact that size does not matter. Size does not matter. Doesn't mean our physical size, it can, but it also means like our slightest, smallest thought, want, wish, our smallest, tiniest belief in ourselves, our smallest, tiniest thought that what can be. They exist not in size, but in what we put into that. So size doesn't matter. Tinkerbell, if you remember the story, would start to fade. And what would we do? What were we asked to do? We were asked to clap, because the clapping brought her energy back in. And I thought about that and I'm like, wow, I had forgotten about the clapping kind of thing. But it came again back to me in these kind of like waterfalls of thoughts. And it was like, okay, it's okay to clap for other people. It's okay to clap for ourselves. It's okay when somebody is feeling low or somebody is feeling out of it or somebody is not having a good day, week, month, year, whatever it happens to be, that we can, in our own energy, our own power, our own intention, clap for them so that they have a moment to breathe and a moment to grow in their own energy. And how about clapping for ourselves? We're taught, aren't we, that that's selfish. Don't think about yourself. You only have to think about other people. I agree we have to think about other people. I absolutely do. But it's also imperative that we think about ourselves, what we need, what helps us grow, what can bring us to that beyond point of expectation rather than what is. So clap for yourselves, clap for others in a way that brings that energy and the thought and the intention to them so they can do with it what they need to do. And the other thing to me Tinkerbell represents is anything's possible. When I was 5 years old, looking at that light on my wall in the kitchen, anything was possible. Anything was possible. And again, what happens to us that we forget about that? That we lose that thought, that we lose that energy of going after something, even though somebody may say to you, oh, you can't do that. How many people have been told in their life, you can't do that, don't even try. Don't even try. And what opportunities have we missed because we listened to somebody rather than just innately following what the little kid in all of us does is wonder and push the boundaries and don't take no for an answer. And if we want something, if we want to do something so badly, God bless, could it be work? Sure. Could it end in Tinkerbell goes away? Could it end in something disappointing? Yes, it could. Could it be that in that push that we gave, we walk away frustrated? Yeah, it could. But could it also be something that we learn that brings us into that next step of our life that we didn't even see before we tried to push into that thought, into that thing, whatever it happens to be? So I had this experience these past few days, not only because it was such a part of my life that, again, feels so magical still to this day. You know, I'm 71, so 66 years later, I can still close my eyes and see that light on the wall. It's amazing to me. And in that, felt my mom being around, that bridge to the spirit world through the memories, and that bridge to the spirit world by somebody, Margaret Kelly, moving into that energy now as part of her continued life. That reminded so many of us in that moment of time that there was a person behind that little cartoon figure, behind the light that faded and came back when you clapped. That people that we may never have met or known their name have crossed our path in some way and made our world, our experience, our life a little bit better. So where can you be the Tinkerbell in your own life? Where can you be that light for somebody else also? Even if we don't feel our light is strong enough in that moment of time to carry somebody else's light, that's okay. That's okay, because we can say, hey, I need you to clap for me in this moment of time. And then when I'm feeling strong enough, I'll clap for you. It's part of our human existence and the interweaving of soul to soul. We have separate physical bodies. We have separate experiences, separate lives, all of those things. But at the heart of it, and I don't mean the physical heart, at the heart of our humanity is our connection to each other. That we all come from the love. We all come from intention. We all come from that one space to have our individual experiences. And then we go back. What can we do here in our individual experience? To wonder, to love, to dream, to invent, to be. Doesn't matter. Remember your size. It doesn't matter your age. All it matters is you try. So thank you very much.